There is no doubt that the Hyundai Motor Group's EV game is extremely strong. I'd go so far as to say the strongest, globally speaking, or at least, no, let's not go globally. Let's just focus on North America. If you combine what Hyundai has, what Kia has, and what Genesis offers, they have just about every segment covered. And there are more to come. If you look down the pipeline with the Kia EV5 and the EV3, very, very soon they will have a player in all of the important categories. One of the more important categories, at least when it comes to me, is the large mid-size 3-row SUV. And that's what I'm reviewing today. This is the first drive of the all-new 2026 Hyundai Ioniq 9. Yes, the non-identical twin to my very own Kia EV9. To say that they're different would be correct. To say that they're similar would also be, well, saying something that is correct. What Hyundai has really tried to do with the Ioniq 9 is visually differentiate it. And I'm going to focus maybe a little too much on that in this following video. And yes, I might be biased, of course, because I'm making payments every month for my EV9. But I think they may have gone a step too far with certain elements. The result is that this is a product that obviously does everything what a full-size, well, large mid-size 3-row electric SUV is supposed to do. In fact, certain things it does better than most in the segment. I guess we could include the Tesla Model X, a Rivian R1S, and if you want to be not necessarily technical, but if you want to stretch it a little bit and include internal combustion engine models, you have the Palisade, the Telluride, the Pathfinder, and all of that. When it comes to most of those, actually, this one is better at a number of things. But look, I'll tell you now, I often do this in a lot of my video reviews, is that I kind of front load a conclusion, and I have a hard time with the efforts when it comes to design. In fact, my driving partner kind of pointed out that from the driver's perspective, this is more minivan than SUV. And now, I hope I don't ruin it for you, I can't get that out of my mind, especially when you look at the styling. Now, obviously, in the following video, what we're going to do is that usual walk around. And I mean, so many efforts have gone into making the Ioniq 9 look the way it does, but there's a very specific reason for that. It's actually very aerodynamic, and you would probably guess just by looking at it. But yeah, so we're going to do a few walk-arounds. We'll talk about pricing because it has just been released just ahead of our driving of the new Ioniq 9. Alrighty then, as we soak in the beautiful view, how about this, the island of Vancouver. Okay, as we walk around our first lap around the Ioniq 9, a few things I want to point out. The Ioniq 9 is actually a little bit longer than the EV9 by about 5 centimeters. Mostly aesthetics, though the wheelbase is about 3 centimeters longer if memory serves correctly. So, you know, everything got pushed in all kinds of directions. Styling, how mean do I want to be? I mean, do I like the people at Hyundai enough to spare a few of my comments? Actually, no. The pixel lighting is cool, especially through the camera like this, because you can see them refreshing and all that. But this is going to be old. As soon as I saw this live, I got to thinking about angel eyes on BMWs, which were absolutely cool, but immediately dated the generation of BMW that had the angel eyes. I don't think the Ioniq 9 is going to be as remarkable in time. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, okay, let's keep going around. There are a number of details that I don't quite understand. I keep thinking the designer had just a little bit of extra ink, so he cut those in to the material, or maybe there's going to be a wide body kit. I am being mean. I can't help it. I'm sorry. It's very aerodynamic. In fact, it's more aerodynamic than the Ioniq 5. So that gives you an idea. That's where all the effort went into. If you take a close look everywhere around the vehicle, everything is flush, completely flush. Even the air vents, well, okay, so they're actually open here, but they're dual mode, so they go in and then flip up, whereas the ones on the EV9 only flip up. And you can see there's like a a gap there, but there are no gaps to be found anywhere on this. The exact number I think is 0.269 or something like that, which is it's remarkable. But the cost, as far as I'm concerned, is, you know, this needs raised roof rails. The boat tail look is generally good, but it kind of, I don't know, it's too flush, and that's why. I mean, I was following a Pacifica earlier, and oh my goodness, I'm going to Hyundai blacklist tomorrow, definitely, or whenever this is published. It doesn't work for me at all. I mean, the front end, if we just come back to it, yes, it's flush, yes, it's novel and all that, but it's gonna get old absolutely way too fast. But thankfully, that's pretty much the only thing that's not good for it. Let's just open the boot. Okay, so it's a 3-row, and oh yeah, I didn't talk to you about the pricing. So 620 liters behind the third row as I do that. So the base price is $59,995 for the base rear-wheel drive model. Then you can you step up to the preferred, which comes with all-wheel drive. For $64,999, you have two versions. So you have one with the lower power outputs, but with more equipment, or the higher output, which is the all-wheel drive plus. Both are the same price. I'm thinking one of those two are going to be dropped eventually. Then you get to the option packages, which is the luxury and this one. And the dead giveaway are the wheels, the 21-inch wheels. This is the ultimate calligraphy, which retails for $81,499. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Little detail. Oh, well, that's a cool thing though. I have to say, Hyundai decided to forego those damn flip-out handles that you get in a 6 or a 5 for these more Kia-like handles, which are far, far more ergonomic. Little details are always nice. This is where Hyundai put in most of its effort, on the interior, well, on the drive. But I'll get that I'll get to that a little bit later. There is just a little bit more room overall than in the EV9. What they're most proud of is, because the calligraphy, captain seats, the only version that you can get the captain seats in, is the excessive amount of headroom. I'm going to say excessive because, as I like to say, I'm, you know, just a hair short of 5'10", and I can easily sit back there with ample room to spare should I ever grow something on top of my head. But like the EV9, the lower seat cushion is actually high, so you can sit back there fairly comfortably. Second row seats, very, very nice, as you would expect. The power operated feature is kind of nice. You don't really need to flip because you have the nice pass through. I think that's basically all that needs to be said. A lot of sustainable materials built into this. Shades, a lovely, lovely thing. What I didn't mention in the trunk, when the third row is folded down, you have 1,323 liters of boot space. But in the segment with the X and the R1S and the EV9, and even with the Palisade or the Telluride, it's got more trunk space behind the third row than all the others. We're talking, you know, 25, 30, 40 liters, which isn't huge, but still notable. Okay, so up front, it's very, very Hyundai-like, but I think in its most premium in every respect. You know, the materials, a lot of them are repurposed materials. Everything looks fantastic. You have these the comfort seats in both rows, actually, in the calligraphy, of course. Let's just step aboard. Twin 12.3-inch screens, which are standard, as are Apple CarPlay, and a number of other features we come to expect today. So let's start it up. It was running. All right, so let's start it up again. There we go. So, I mean, this is very, very familiar territory nowadays with the twin 12.3-inch screens. I do like that you have the hard shortcut menus, which is kind of interesting because in a Kia, you get these, and then you can flip down on the same panel to the HVAC controls on the same panel. This is actually a better layout, where these are fixed controls. I don't need that right now because it's nice and warm. But I love still the fact that these controls are there. They're dedicated controls to everything you see. So your drive modes are here. You know, the terrain and the drive. I've been doing a lot of normal driving mostly. I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. Dashboard is lovely. This is kind of really cool, and you can see calligraphy. Yes, it's very functional, very user friendly. But this is another thing that kind of throws me off minivans. I don't know. Instead of having a tray under here, the tray is actually in the back. I forgot to show you. I'll do that right now. But this is, I am going to be blacklisted. There's also a frunk, 52 liters, which is a little bit larger than the one in the EV9, but I won't show that to you. But I will show you this, which is something that is similarly found in the EV9. HVAC controls, yes, cooled in the second row. Look, all in all, as far as the interior is concerned, it is spectacular, and it really does match the driving experience in this. But I don't know, take the background out and put it in downtown Montreal. I don't know. I need to mention, well, show you now that yes, the Ioniq 9 is the first Hyundai product to come with, as standard, the NACS plug. You get the adapters with the vehicle. They're in a nice fancy bag in the frunk. That is all. Time to hit the road. Now, from behind the wheel of the Ioniq 9, I gave you an idea of a breakdown as far as the trims are concerned. I mean, when you go with the rear wheel drive single motor model, you deal with 215 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, which I'm going to imagine is kind of slow. I mean, I've never driven either an EV9 or obviously not an Ioniq 9 with the single motor layout, but I'm sure it's sufficient. Let's put it that way. When you step up to the preferred and you go all-wheel drive, kind of hinted at all that too, you get the 303 horsepower version with 446 pound-feet of torque. Now this, remember that it's the same battery size for everyone. This is a 110.3 kilowatt hour battery. So now if you take the plus, that's when things kind of get interesting, at least on paper, because like this, which is a plus ultimate calligraphy, everything goes up to the max numbers, which is 422 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. Now, I just mentioned weight, so about 6,000 pounds is what you can expect this to tip the scales at. Despite the power, now this is over the EV9, it's actually mildly slower in the 0 to 100 kilometer per hour. So 5.2 is what it's rated at, whereas the EV9 should do it in 5 flat. But that's kind of an interesting segue into what the Ioniq 9 is vis-a-vis the EV9. It is I said, you know, very different but very similar, or very the same and very different at the same time, you know, in the introduction, where yes, EGMP, battery, motor setup. I mean, as you can see, the outputs for the top trim version, this one, I mean, the torque number is the same. It's just an extra, wait, I can math. No, I can't. I don't know, like 60 extra horsepower, 50 extra horsepower? Yeah, I told you, I can't math. But what you're getting really in exchange for the extra power is, well, the important thing is no loss in range for real. So 515 kilometers of range max versus, well, actually that's for dual motors. If you go to a single motor, the standard version, you're up to 539 kilometers of range. But even in this top spec everything, you're at 500 kilometers of estimated range, and that's flat. And that definitely betters the EV9 by a considerable amount. And 455 is about the best you can expect in the GT line or top trim all-wheel drive versions. Though, you know, that's only about 45 kilometers of range difference. Slice that in half for a more realistic day-to-day driving range difference. But what I was trying to get at is the Ioniq 9 is a far more civilized, far more refined and comfortable all-electric SUV than the EV9. It has the same layout in the calligraphy trim with the rear air suspension as the GT line does. Now, Contrary to the EV9, this is well controlled. In fact, I did not select a GT line when I picked up my EV9 because I cannot stand the way the rear air suspension is calibrated. It's got a different brain versus what the front end wants to do. Here, they're kind of on the same page. And Hyundai has done an enormous amount of tuning for the dampening, for the sound insulation, which really translates into a far plusher ride in every respect, in fact. I want to say that it's softer, but it's not necessarily softer. It's just a little creamier. Is that the right word? But the cool thing is you still have all these modes for regen braking, which on these roads I've been using almost exclusively because they are very well calibrated, as they are in all other Kia and Hyundai and Genesis EVs. Steering is not connected to anything, but if you take that leap of faith, you realize that the front wheels will do what you want them to do when you ask them to do something. All in all, if you go for the Ioniq 9 and you can overlook the styling, at least as far as I'm concerned, this is a far more comfortable, it feels a lot more luxurious than the EV9. But the difference is, I want to say minimal, but noticeable, right? It's really on that line, on that fence between, you can't really tell the difference, and, oh yeah, you can kind of tell the difference. Personally, I think I made it clear, abundantly clear, that the styling just does absolutely nothing for me. This is going to look old well before its time, whereas the EV9 is a slightly more timeless, a little bit more macho look. But if you recall, we spend most of our time behind the wheel and not outside staring at our vehicle. This is nicer to drive.